Well, hey there and good evening, folks. Hope you are doing well. Today, we're going to continue our coverage in the Bryan Kohberger case. Interesting information coming out about Ann Taylor and Bill Thompson, the two respective parties that are representing Bryan Kohberger, or the victims in this case. Bill Thompson representing the victims in this case, Ann Taylor representing Bryan Kohberger as the public defender in this case. They are at odds with one another. And I think it's an interesting conversation we're going to have in just a couple of minutes. And Ann Taylor essentially is accusing Bill Thompson, that whole department, of leaking information to the public. I've been saying it since the very beginning of this case. Ashley Banfield continues to come out with information after information after information. And as she does it, it's obvious that information is being leaked from somewhere. So that office would be one of the very few places that information can be leaked from. So we'll talk about it in just a couple of minutes. I'm interested to see what you guys think. I did a poll in the chat and just said, what do you think? Who do you think's leaking information? Do you think the Latah County Prosecutor's Office is leaking information? Several people, hundreds of people say no, but about 40% of you guys are saying yes. So interesting piece of information, interesting for us to work down it, down the pathway of it in that way. And listen, I missed you guys. I really did miss you guys yesterday. I was not able to stream. I was officiating and preaching a funeral for one of the people that are a part of our Faith Friday services that we're a part of. They lost somebody in their family, asked me to officiate the funeral, and that was all the way in Florida. So I had to wake up and be at the airport at 5 a.m. this morning. I'm back in Nashville now, and I'm glad to be here with you guys. And I'm so glad to see you. Hopefully, you've had a great weekend. It's great weather. It was great weather yesterday in Florida. It's been great weather today in Nashville, Tennessee. I'd love to know, as you're tuning in, where you're watching from. If you don't mind, go ahead and put it in the chat section. And I want to let you know too that we're totally crowdfunded, which means we are not able to do the stream, to do what we do on this channel, to create content, unless people like you choose to come alongside and support us. And so there's a couple of ways that you can support us. You can support us through Super Sticker or Super Chat. You can also support us through PayPal, which is Tyler Feller, CashApp, which is $ Tyler Feller 22, or Venmo, which is at Tyler-Feller. I know not everybody watching today is in a financial situation where you're able to help us out, and that's understandable. So a free way that you can help us out today is just by hitting the like button on the video or subscribing if you haven't already. Another thing that you can do, and this is so great, we're partnering with an app called Swagit. It's a video content app. They have all kinds of different types of content, but they also are putting a focus on true crime. Me and several of my favorite true crime creators have joined the app. And so anybody who goes and downloads the app, you can do it by hitting the link that I just pinned in the chat. If you click that, download the app and go follow me, which is just at Tyler Feller, you're automatically entered to win $250 this month, which is amazing. We're just giving away $250 to somebody that's subscribed. We gave away $250 last month. I don't know if you were on the stream, but we actually did a stream where we gave away that money. It was super cool. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to being able to do that. And hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. One of the things I wanted to show you, just as we're getting into the different pieces of information today, it's a video that is actually one that we kind of highlighted before, but it's interesting to see some additions that have been added on to it. It's just talking about it's a 3D video of what took place at 1122 King Road. So I think that that's interesting. Hey, Elizabeth, thank you so much for gifting those memberships. Woo! Really appreciate that. Thank you so much for your support. Tammy says, thank you for your membership. So if you guys won a membership, you were gifted a membership today from Elizabeth, congratulations. You should thank her in the chat. Thank you, Elizabeth, for being able to do that and help some people out. If you guys are a part of our membership program, we have a Facebook group specifically for our members, our paid members on the channel. We'd love for you to go join that group. It's called Feller Fam. Okay.
Friday Night Theories. You're familiar with it by now, I'm sure. And boy, are we lucky, because a young graphic designer in Las Vegas has put together an incredible 3D graphic animation of what she believes happened at that home at 1122 King Road. She goes by Van Life Adventures and Open Mind Perspective on her YouTube channel. And she partnered with another designer called Asget Industries, and they put together this animation using the probable cause affidavit, police reports, and police press conferences. So again, I have to just give the disclaimer: these are all allegations. Bryan Kohberger is only alleged to have committed these crimes, but in her theory, she calls him, how he carried out the crimes, but it is an allegation. But with that said, I want you to take a look at just a remarkable series of events. Take a look.
Bryan Kohberger, the suspect, is believed to have entered the neighborhood at 3:29 a.m. Approaching the house, he noticed the lights are on. This hinders his plan, and he now has to rethink things. He continues on to the back, where he sees even more lights on. From the affidavit, we know he drove by the house 3 times in less than 5 minutes, probably trying to figure out what to do next. He finally decides to leave the area for a little while.
This reenactment is really interesting. Part of this they'd already done, like I said, but this is a really interesting reenactment.
And observes the lights are on one last time in front as he drives off. Cameras show him leaving the neighborhood and exiting on Walenta Drive in this direction. It's uncertain which way he went from this point here, but we know that he is seen here at this location at 3:45 a.m., caught on a gas station security camera.
Hey guys, I don't know what happened. I totally just disappeared. My internet quit working. So sorry about that. Let me rewind this video for just a second. We should be back on track now. That was super weird. I don't know if there was some storms and stuff, if the internet messed it up or what, but put a 1 in the chat if you guys can see me now. If you see me back in action. Golly, that's so weird. So I'm just connected to my phone now. Essentially what happened was my internet quit working, and I know like my neighbors don't even have electricity still. So in some places of the city, from some storms that came through the other night, they're working on a lot of different things, including, I guess, internet and electricity. Hey, Kevin, thank you so much for that super chat. That's the first super sticker of the day, Kevin. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Amy Heights, thank you for that super sticker. I'm back in action. Lots of ones coming through. Good to see. Thank you guys so much for that. All right. Boom.
It's uncertain which way he went from this point here, but we know that he is seen here at this location at 3:45 a.m., caught on a gas station security camera. Wondering if this could truly be a 2015 Elantra, I downloaded a known image of one with a similar angle of view. I then entered that into a 3D modeling software and added some lighting and then tilted the camera to get a similar angle. I then animated the image to be traveling at 40 miles per hour, giving motion blur, which ended with this result. Though not scientific, we can see.
I mean, that looks pretty much identical, right? I mean, the image that she took, adding motion blur, adding some headlights, traveling at 40 miles per hour. I mean, golly, it looks basically identical. And I know it's hard to tell. She said, although not scientific, certainly not scientific, but at the same time, really powerful.
Very close similarities that this is a 2015 Elantra. Back to the map. We see the suspect re-enters the neighborhood at 4:04 a.m. He drives up to the house and slows down. Looking at the windows, he sees the lights are now off. Continuing to the back, he checks to see if those lights are off. They are. He's excited. He knows everyone is finally in bed, but he wants to check the front one last time. As he drives down, he's filled with adrenaline, seeing the lights are all off. His brain short circuits for a second as he clumsily tries to turn around in front of the house. It fails, but he regains composure and drives on. He's caught on camera making a 3-point turn at the end of the street to return back to the residence. He does his final drive to the back of the house. In the beginning, most of us believed the two surviving roommates, Bethany and Dylan, were sleeping on the first floor. Since then, we've learned Dylan was sleeping here on the second floor, along with Xana and Ethan located here. Kaylee and Madison were located here on the third floor. The dog was located on the third floor and the room by itself.
So there's the layout, if you guys can see. 3 people sleeping, and I mean, you should know this already, but there was a lot of confusion about it in the beginning. 3 people sleeping on the second floor, 2 people sleeping on the third floor, 1 person sleeping on the first floor. And part of the way that we got intel about that before we were able to even have access, for example, to the probable cause affidavit that shared some more information about where Dylan was at, was the body cam footage that we seen from September when the police officers were there. That bedroom on the first floor on the right side of the house, it was easy for us to look at that and see that nobody was living in there. It's pretty much like an empty room. There was some golf clubs in there. Nobody was living in that room. And so it just started to beg the question, like, well, what is the living arrangement? Who is where in this house? And probably the person in the basement was like, gosh, I hate living in the basement. This is terrible. And then something like this happens, like, what a blessing, right? That they were able to be staying down there. And this person obviously is doing an incredible job of recreating this. We've seen a version of them create this before, but that was when some of the details were not totally lined up yet. And the things that we were talking about were just assumptions. So now we're able to watch it based on real life factual information that we have from a variety of sources. So I think it's a great job. So, hey, by the way, one of the things that we do just as a way to get support and allow we're inviting people to come be a part of what we're doing. We call it a super sticker train. I'm wondering if this first hour of the show, we can get 15 people to hop aboard our super sticker train, just as a way for you to show your support. So we're looking for 15 people to help us out this first hour on a super sticker train or super chat train.
Let's move around and see through the walls into the kitchen, to the back slider, and take a look at the time frames. At 4:04 a.m., the suspect can be seen trying to park his car. At 4:09, approximately 5 minutes later, he enters the house through the back slider. At 4:18, he leaves the house after committing the crimes. At 4:20, he's caught on camera driving away at a high rate of speed.
So that's why when Dale Carson was on the show, which by the way, he's going to be back on the show on Wednesday. That's why when Dale Carson was on the show, he's like, I think whoever did this, likely Bryan Kohberger, he has been arrested and charged for 4 counts of felony murder and 1 count of burglary. That count of burglary makes me think he stole something, by the way. But anyways, Dale Carson was saying, I think he was in and out within 6 minutes. He said, I think he was in and out within 6 minutes. 6 minutes is fast. 6 minutes is fast. So if he enters the house at 9:09, he's up and down, and he leaves by 9:18. So, I mean, give or take 6 to 9 minutes, that's fast as lightning. So, golly, could you imagine? He was a man on a mission, make no mistake about it. Hey, Lanny, Danielle, hey, Marigold, thank you guys for your support. Really appreciate your help.
All of this only took 9 minutes. Let's watch what that looks like. The suspect enters through the back sliding door. He pauses at the stairs to look around to make sure no one's up. He then turns and goes upstairs. The first bedroom he stops at and opens the door. He sees no one there. He continues to the next bedroom. Here we know what happens. Downstairs, Dylan.
He says 6 minutes is actually a long time. It's like running a full mile. I don't know, guys. 6 minutes to ruthlessly murder 4 people, including one of them having very significant stab wounds, which we think is Kaylee Gonsalves. In 6 minutes? Gosh, that's a man on a mission. As I'm watching this, one of the things that I keep thinking about is when we heard Dylan say, and you guys have heard Dylan say this if you've read the probable cause affidavit, she said, Xana said, there's someone here. And the person said, I'm going to help you. Gosh, that's freaky. It actually makes me think about what we heard in the recording in the Delphi case. You guys think it's a long time? Gosh. Cammy said, I think he had help. Does anybody think Bryan Kohberger had an accomplice? Put a 1 in the chat if you think he had an accomplice. Put a 2 in the chat if you don't think he had an accomplice.
Is sleeping. The noise from upstairs wakes her up. She thinks it's Kaylee playing with her dog. She gets up and goes to the door and looks out. She sees nothing there. The suspect then continues down the stairs about 3 minutes later. He then heads to Xana's room. Outside, there's a security camera picking up some whimpering, cries, and a thud at 4:17. We've learned that Xana was found on the floor, which might explain the thud. Dylan again hears something and looks outside her door. She sees the suspect. He walks right past her and leaves.
I want to bring Bryan Enton back in. Bryan, you stood out in front of that house for all those days and nights. It is a whole other perspective to see a 3D modeling and an animation. It almost gave perspective I didn't have, despite the amount of reading I've done on this case.
Yeah, I will say, having been outside the house, the artwork, the design is very, very impressive. Even the slope of the driveway, I was watching it and envisioning it in my head. They did a very, very good job with the artwork. The only thing I will say, I mean, it's obviously just a theory. I went through the video. I counted more than a dozen things that I don't know we have proof of. A lot of it's from the probable cause, but I think, you know, connecting some of the pieces and some of the timeline that we just don't know. Obviously, she, you know, filled in some of the gaps. And it is just a theory, but in terms of the design, it is very impressive.
Pretty impressive. Like you said, it is a theory and it's Friday Night Theories. Bryan Enton, thank you for that. Thank you for watching.
As I want to rewind and watch that. Let's watch this animation through this time without me stopping and talking, just because I want to get the fullness of it. Because like we started watching it last time, my internet quit working.
Is believed to have entered the neighborhood at 3:29 a.m. Approaching the house, he noticed the lights are on. This hinders his plan, and he now has to rethink things. He continues on to the back where he sees even more lights on. From the affidavit, we know he drove by the house 3 times in less than 5 minutes, probably trying to figure out what to do next. He finally decides to leave the area for a little while and observes the lights are on one last time in front as he drives off. Cameras show him leaving the neighborhood and exiting on Walenta Drive in this direction. It's uncertain which way he went from this point here, but we know that he is seen here at this location at 3:45 a.m., caught on a gas station security camera. Wondering if this could truly be a 2015 Elantra, I downloaded a known image of one with a similar angle of view. I then entered that into a 3D modeling software and added some lighting and then tilted the camera to get a similar angle. I then animated the image to be traveling at 40 miles per hour, giving motion blur, which ended with this result. Though not scientific, we can see very close similarities that this is a 2015 Elantra. Back to the map. We see the suspect re-enters the neighborhood at 4:04 a.m. He drives up to the house and slows down. Looking at the windows, he sees the lights are now off. Continuing to the back, he checks to see if those lights are off. They are. He's excited. He knows everyone is finally in bed, but he wants to check the front one last time. As he drives down, he's filled with adrenaline, seeing the lights are all off. His brain short circuits for a second as he clumsily tries to turn around in front of the house. It fails, but he regains composure and drives on. He's caught on camera making a 3-point turn at the end of the street to return back to the residence. He does his final drive to the back of the house. In the beginning, most of us believed the 2 surviving roommates, Bethany and Dylan, were sleeping on the first floor. Since then, we've learned Dylan was sleeping here on the 2nd floor, along with Xana and Ethan located here. Kaylee and Madison were located here on the 3rd floor. The dog was located on the 3rd floor and the room by itself. Let's move around and see through the walls into the kitchen, to the back slider, and take a look at the time frames. At 4:04 a.m., the suspect can be seen trying to park his car. At 4:09, approximately 5 minutes later, he enters the house through the back slider. At 4:18, he leaves the house after committing the crimes. At 4:20, he's caught on camera driving away at a high rate of speed. All of this only took 9 minutes. Let's watch what that looks like. The suspect enters through the back sliding door. He pauses at the stairs to look around to make sure no one's up. He then turns and goes upstairs. The first bedroom he stops at and opens the door, he sees no one there. He continues to the next bedroom. Here we know what happens. Downstairs, Dylan is sleeping. The noise from upstairs wakes her up. She thinks it's Kaylee playing with her dog. She gets up and goes to the door and looks out. She sees nothing there. The suspect then continues down the stairs about 3 minutes later. He then heads to Xana's room. Outside, there's a security camera picking up some whimpering, cries, and a thud at 4:17. We've learned that Xana was found on the floor, which might explain the thud. Dylan again hears something and looks outside her door. She sees the suspect. He walks right past her and leaves.
I want to bring Bryan Enton back in. Bryan,
Wow, guys, that's extremely fascinating recreation of that crime scene. And the details, there might be 1 or 2 minutes off here or there, but many of you guys are saying, wow, I was feeling chills watching that. And I can definitely see how, as you're watching that, you would be overwhelmed with chills or feeling a certain type of emotion. I mean, that was absolutely heartbreaking to realize that this crazed lunatic snuck into this house with a motive that still isn't totally clear, was able to go upstairs, ruthlessly end the lives of two innocent people, go downstairs, ruthlessly eliminate the lives of two other innocent people, and was out of the house in less than 10 minutes, maybe less than 7 minutes. Wow. That is heartbreaking. Another interesting news about Bryan Kohberger, his legal team is challenging 30 news organizations. There's about 30 news organizations right now that feel like the gag order needs to be lifted. And this is a bigger issue that's going on because not only is there a gag order, but somewhere in one of the departments, there's information that's being leaked out. So there's two sort of competing issues right now. There's a gag order that's in place or a non-dissemination order that exists so that individuals that are involved in the case at any level, as an attorney, as a paralegal, as a victim, as a relative of a victim, they're not allowed to share information that's sort of on the inside of what's happening in the court. That information is being leaked out. Very private, secret information is being leaked out. And it seems like most of it somehow is being leaked out through Ashley Banfield. So the press is coming alongside and they're petitioning the Idaho Supreme Court saying, hey, we think that what you're doing is unconstitutional. The non dissemination order that exists should not exist. It should be lifted. The public has a right to know this information. And you've illegally placed this non dissemination order when there doesn't need to be one. And so they're fighting the United States Supreme Court about that. And then meanwhile, sort of like running in tandem with that is this other conversation that's taking place, that's existing between the Latell County prosecutor Bill Thompson and Bryan Kohberger's public defender Ann Taylor, where they're sort of at odds because Ann Taylor is accusing Bill Thompson of leaking information. So let's work our way through these two radical pieces of information that's happening. So Bryan Kohberger's legal team's challenging 30 news organizations. Bryan Kohberger's team is seeking to maintain a gag order that has been placed on the case by challenging 30 news organizations in front of the Supreme Court. They claim that the media's coverage of this case has been twisted and are causing them to seek a procedural victory instead of asking the magistrate judge who initially issued the order to reverse it. However, Jay Weston Logston with the Kootenai County Public Defender's Office did not provide any examples of the alleged twisted media coverage. And something that we've seen through court information, documentation, and memos that have came out recently is that Ann Taylor has been on the record saying that she feels like the coverage that's happening in this case is horrifying. She called it atrocious. She feels like the Gonsalves family is partly to blame for the way that the media is covering this. She actually said it was pervasive and grotesquely twisted in nature. It's a filing in response to something called a writ of mandamus. And that was filed by the Associated Press. And like we said, about 30 other media companies requesting that the Idaho 2nd Judicial District vacate the non-dissemination order or the gag order. And then Ann Taylor says that the media coverage that's been happening is pervasive and grotesquely twisted. I think that might be hard to prove because we're certainly given the right as individuals free speech. Bryan Kohberger is a criminal justice doctoral student. He has been charged with the stabbing death of Kaylee Madison, Ethan, and Xana. The bodies of the students were found on November 13th. In January, Latell County Magistrate Judge Megan Marshall issued a gag order that prevented attorneys, law enforcement agencies, and others associated with the case from speaking out about it The coalition of news organizations, which includes the Associated Press, argues that the gag order violates their right to free speech. I'd love to hear your perspective on this, because in one way, we want to make sure that there's a jury that's able to sort of be put together, an amalgamation of fair-minded jurors in this case, and too much pervasive and grotesquely twisted media would certainly get in the way of that. I mean, that's a no-brainer. However, this has been one of very few cases across the country that sort of hit the ecosystem, and it's what everybody's talking about. In fact, Joe Rogan did a whole little segment on this case. And when there's that much public interest on this in that type of way, there could be things that are being said that actually work to the advantage of individuals, creating safety for them down line. So I'd love to know, what do you guys think? Should the non-dissemination order be lifted? And then here's the other part. This is coming from a local news station talking about how the attorneys in the Moscow murder cases are at odds over the alleged information leak.
Turning now to the Moscow murder case, newly unsealed court documents are revealing even more disagreement among the attorneys involved, and that includes allegations of leaked information.
KREM 2 Shannon Mowdy combed through that document today and breaks down what we have learned. Shannon?
Yeah, this memo summarizes a January 13th meeting held in chambers where the judge gave a stern reminder of her gag order. The judge was concerned after seeing media reports about the Moscow murder case, including details that shouldn't be public under that order. In the memo, we've learned about accusations of an information leak against one of the top attorneys in the case. This 3-page memo was unsealed, with the names of some witnesses and their attorneys redacted early this week. The closed-door meeting January 13th included those attorneys, the prosecutors, public defender, and Gonzalez family attorney Shannon Gray.
It is an ordinary meeting to deal with an extraordinary circumstance.
Seattle trial lawyer Mo Hammoudi provided some context about why this meeting was held and why we're now seeing the summary unsealed.
You want this case either tried to a jury or resolved by way of a plea agreement once. Cases like this are not only expensive, but the victim's family.
I don't know about you, but I want to see this one go to trial, and I hope they televise the trial.
Will be damaged the longer it takes to get through this process.
Judge Megan Marshall called the meeting in response to what she was hearing and seeing in media reports of the case. Hammoudi says this was a stern reminder of the existing non-dissemination order and a warning for anyone who violated it.
There's real concern in this case about information being publicized before it is even introduced in a court of law.
The judge warned violators could be held in contempt and or reported to the Idaho State Bar. Hammoudi says punishments could range from attorneys being fined to having licenses suspended or even being disbarred. In the unsealed memo, Gonzalez family attorney Shannon Gray claimed information is getting leaked from the prosecutor's office. Prosecutor Bill Thompson denied the allegations. Hammoudi says possible could damage the ability to find a jury.
This is really interesting. The document says Prosecutor Thompson states that many of Mr. Gray's accusations are not true. The state is concerned about the ability to impanel a jury and have a fair trial. He's hopeful that all parties will begin to show professional responsibility. Guys, one of the things that I'm curious about, how does Shannon Gray and Bill Thompson not realize that they're on the same side? Everyone in this meeting, which we went through the memo extensively the other day, everyone in that meeting has been throwing darts at Shannon Gray, who's the attorney for the Gonzalez family. And I think that Prosecutor Thompson needs to realize that he and Shannon Gray are on the same side, and the two would be a really powerful duo. I mean, he has like a cannon on his hip that at any time he can just pull out in the form of Steve Gonzalez himself, and Shannon Gray is an extra attorney that they're not having to pay for to help out in this case. They're on the same side. Ultimately, they want to see a conviction come to whoever it was that committed the evil atrocity that took place. And so I'm all in favor, 100% in favor of them working together and finding get to a solution. But this he said, she said, we said, attorneys bickering and fighting over each other with each other about who's possibly leaking information is not helpful. It's not helpful in any sense of the way.
He says possible leaks could damage the ability to find a jury or try the case fairly.
Because for it to come into court, it has to be reliable, it has to be relevant, it has to be admissible, it has to meet criteria under the rules. So now you have a piece of information out there that may or may not come into evidence.
So what can we gather from the release of this document? Hammoudi says it shows the judge and attorneys are committed to protecting this highly publicized case, pointing out Thompson and Bryan Kohberger's public defender, Ann Taylor, signed off on unsealing it.
It speaks volumes because they're interested in making sure that the integrity of these proceedings are protected. It's clear.
So let's talk about who could possibly be leaking information. Who would have access to private information in this case? Ann Taylor and the Criminal Defense Department from the Public Defender's Office. Bill Thompson, the Latah County prosecutor, would have private information, and anybody that's operating under him on his staff that's working on the case. Megan Marshall, the judge who's working on the case, another person. And anybody that would be maybe in the courthouse that would have private access to Bryan Kohberger. So there's really 4 pockets of people who could have information. One of these 4 pockets of people are leaking information. It's either law enforcement from inside of the courthouse. It's either somebody on the prosecution side. It's either somebody on the public defender side, which that doesn't make any sense. Or it's the judge herself. I don't know who it is that's leaking information, but there certainly has been lots of information that has been leaking out. For example, in a recent segment that we saw on News Nation, there was a report that was quoting Bryan Kohberger recently, as in the past 2 weeks, where he said he's excited to be exonerated. So before he was eagerly looking forward to his exoneration, now he's excited to be exonerated. That's a quote that has to be coming from somewhere. And so we know that they've had private hearings. During that private hearing, there was a time where Kohberger was speaking on his own behalf. He didn't want his attorney Ann Taylor to speak for him. There could have been some sort of closed set part of that hearing that we didn't get a transcript of, where he said something along those lines. And then that'd be very few people. It's like less than 10 people that could have leaked that. Or did he say that to somebody inside of the jail where he's at? So I'd love to know, put it down in the comments. Let me know who you think is responsible for leaking information. And I think it's really important. I actually think it's really important for us to get down to the bottom of it because it makes a difference. Hey, Miss Lacey J, thank you so much for that super sticker. You said, sadly, the media has been corrupt for a long time. I hope truth and justice rises above all things. I agree. That's exactly what I want. I want truth and I want justice. And, you know, we always say Bryan Kohberger has the presumption of innocence in the American justice system. That's a given at this time. So we don't need to say that a million times over. We want justice in this case. And if he's the one who's responsible for that, we want that to happen. You said, thanks, Tyler, for always reporting facts and showing integrity on your show. Bless you. Bless you. Thank you for your encouragement. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Trish. And thank you, Paula. Thank you, Miss Lacey J 1111 for hopping aboard that super sticker train that takes 6 of you guys that have hopped aboard our super sticker train to help us out. We're trying to get to 15. So we need 9 more people to sponsor the show this hour. Hop aboard the super sticker train just as a way to help us out. Here's a video that is just talking about waiting till June. They said we can't wait until June.
Now to the latest in the Idaho murder investigations. Defense lawyers for the accused killer are fighting to keep that gag order in place. Bryan Kohberger's defense team filed the opposition with the Idaho Supreme Court yesterday. The gag order claims restrictions are needed to protect Kohberger's right to a fair trial due to, quote, twisted media coverage. The move came days after 30 news organizations asked the court to overturn that order. The lawyer for the News Coalition argues the order violates violates the right to free speech. It also prevents the victims' families from having attorneys speak to the media on their behalf. The attorney for one of the victims' family filed a separate motion to clarify the gag order because they say it's too vague. Meanwhile, we are getting more clarity on what exactly police found when they arrested Kohberger at his parents' Pennsylvania home after authorities unsealed several warrants this week. A Glock 22 handgun with 3 empty magazines, a knife, and black gloves were among the dozens of items taken in connection with the stabbing deaths of those 4 Idaho college students. For a deeper look into what these latest developments mean for the case, we're bringing in former FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffendorfer. Jennifer, thank you for being here.
By the way, Jennifer Coffendorfer and I did a whole segment yesterday, or actually the day before, Friday, where we went over every single item that was listed in the items that were seized. And so if you guys want to watch that, it's about 30 minutes long. I reposted the video yesterday of her and I going through that list. She's so wise. I mean, she's the best of the best. Hey, Cajun Tim, thank you so much for that. Miss Lacey J says Banfield gets all sorts of leaked stuff. How? That's what I can't figure out. It could be because she has the biggest platform as far as people who are continuing to cover Kohberger stuff. So they're coming to her. She might have secret ways of extracting information. It's maybe part of the reason why she is so successful. I don't know, but I want to know the answer to that question too, Miss Lacey J. It's a great question. How? How does she always have the inside scoop? Hey, Jilly Bean, how are you? Thank you for your support. Really appreciate that. That takes us to 9 on our super sticker train. Trying to get to 15. We only need 6 more. I wonder if we can get 6 more of you guys to hop aboard in the next 6 minutes.
Thank you for having me, Natasha.
Let's start with that gag order, basically barring attorneys, law enforcement agencies, other associated with the case from talking or writing about it. What are the benefits of limiting information surrounding the case to the public? And if the gag order remains, could this actually leave room for misinformation to proliferate?
Well, I think the gag order will stay in place, and I think it's important that it does stay in place. Really, it protects not only Mr. Kohberger and his rights, it also protects the rights of this case being justly coming to fruition for these victims. And what happens when there's a free flow of information from attorneys, from witnesses, from lawyers, it ends up getting tried in the press. And moreover, it also causes a possible tainting of a jury pool. So I think the Supreme Court in Idaho will keep this gag order in place.
Meanwhile, this week, authorities unsealing several warrants that show the items that were seized from Kohberger's family home, including a knife and black clothing. I want to get your initial reaction to some of those items. What are you reading into that? Is there a high probability that these items were directly involved with that night?
Well, I don't think they were directly involved with that night, but they certainly are interesting. We've got a mask, we've got the black covering or cap, we've got those gloves, the knife, the Glock. I call it a kit bag, if you will. Just have seen this type of material before in offenders such as this, and I thought it was very telling.
So one of the things that somebody was saying, sort of in opposition of us saying like, hey, this is kind of weird, the collection of things that Bryan Kohberger has, that Jennifer Coffendorfer was saying, I thought it was really interesting. They were saying, well, he lives in an area that's cold, so it's not unusual. Yeah, but I've lived in areas where it's cold. I don't have 14 pairs of gloves, and I don't have 14 masks. I've lived in an area where it snows. I didn't keep a shovel in my car. And it's not that like any number of those things are odd by themselves. It's the collection of the ingredients that makes the recipe for disaster. It's the collection of all of the little pieces of evidence. And I'm going to talk about it in just a second. I'm going to pull it up on the screen. But one of the things that Jennifer Coffendorfer was trying to allude to possibly, I don't know, is it potentially where it says he underlined page 118, an underlining of Elliot Rodgers' manifesto. And so I'm going to read to you guys what page 118 of Elliot Rodgers' manifesto says. And one of the things that we can almost make sense of, and it's certainly up to you to figure out if you agree or disagree with it. But one of the things that we're trying to make sense of is when we think about Elliot Rogers and we think about the Facebook account called Papa Rogers that seemed to have crystal clear accuracy of what took place in this. Is Papa Rogers sort of like the father of the incel movement? He's somebody that they look up to. You get what I'm saying? And so they're sort of alluding like, Papa Rogers, this is our father. This is the guy we want to be like. And so we're going to take page 118 from his manifesto and underline it. Hey, Megan, thank you for that super sticker. Really appreciate your support. Hey, Nissa Marie, you said, do you think that cameras will be banned from the courtroom once trial starts because so many things were leaked? I certainly hope not. I think part of the thing that makes the American justice system beautiful is that when there are people who want to participate in it, as far as even as a spectator, that the government should open that up. And so once the trial starts, I don't know what information could be leaked since then, but I think that there is great opportunity that happens when people in the United States of America come alongside the American justice system and start to pay attention to the processes and the way that things work. I mean, just think about the Alec Murdaugh case, for example. There are millions of people who were tuned into that case who now have a great, maybe even a greater understanding of how that aspect of the American justice system works. I think it's net positive for our society when these trials are televised. I think there are certainly downfalls to it. Certainly, there are certainly downfalls to it. One of them could be what you're alluding to there, which would be a disruption of the proper flow of justice and an interruption from outside entities that don't need to be involved. Certainly, that's possible. But when you look at the pain versus the gain or the pros versus the cons, I think the gain and the pros well outweigh the pain and the cons, in my opinion. Hey, Megan, thank you so much for that super sticker. Really appreciate that. You guys are amazing. That takes us to 12 on our super sticker train. We only need 3 more to hit our goal this hour. Hoping that we have 3 more of you to hop aboard and help us out.
In addition, I thought it was very interesting, and I'm so glad law enforcement took the gas pedal and took the brake pedal and the cushions within his seat so that they can properly be analyzed for possible traces of blood.
I appreciate that. And that is not a detail that immediately came to my mind. Meanwhile, plenty of people do own black gloves or knives. Could these items just be viewed as circumstantial evidence?
Well, they're circumstantial, but look at the person we are looking at. It's somebody who the court has said there's probable cause to believe he's killed these people. When you add it all together and throw it all.
What is this knife they have on the screen right there? Is that the other knife that they're thinking they took from the home from Bryan Kohberger? Has skulls on it, says bad company.
Together, it does have meaning, particularly, of course, the 3 knives, the Glock. There was other information too. There was a book that had some underlying in it that's very interesting. We don't know exactly why they took that, but obviously they believe it speaks to possible motive. Also, a letter to the father. These are all things that probably are going to speak to his mindset and possible motive. We cannot wait for June to come.
Now, what do you make of?
I cannot wait for June to come. And, you know, it's even like the hearing that they just did that was in secret somehow got leaked out. So even if they don't televise the hearing that's going to be happening in June, I think all of the information from it's going to be leaked out one way or another. Hey, Livia, how are you? Thank you for that super sticker. Miss Lacey J says the Daybell Valdo case is not being televised because the judge over it in my town banned it because Lori smiles and smirks and it turns into a show. It becomes a show trial. Yeah, you're right. You said Idaho has little experience with big cases. It's unfortunate that 3 major cases, if you include Dylan Rounds, Lori DeVallo, and Bryan Kohberger in the past, year or less than year, is coming out of Idaho. My gosh, that's not sitting well with my spirit for some reason, Miss Lacey J. And I feel bad for you that you're getting all this unwanted press. Before people thought about Idaho, they thought about snow, they thought about potatoes, they thought about its proximity to the Rocky Mountains and other parts of the Pacific Northwest that are beautiful. So it's fascinating to me, but that's a good reason, instead of giving this person, Lori Vallow, what she's wanting, let's not make her into a celebrity. And I understand it from that perspective as well. Hey, Pamela, thank you so much for that super sticker. Really appreciate that. Henry Dog. Is that her first super sticker from a dog? Really appreciate that. Oregon Outback. Yeah, but Dylan Rounds and his family was all from Idaho. And the situation was equal parts Idaho, Nevada, and Utah. It was a 3-state crime. It wasn't just a 1-state situation. So we have Montello, Nevada. We have a lot that took place in Idaho, and then we obviously have Lucin, Utah. So it was kind of a 3-state situation. By the way, guys, I just want to invite you to go follow me on this amazing new app. It's called Swagit. You can just click that link and download it. If you do that, an amazing thing will happen. If you follow me, you're automatically entered to win $250. And so we already gave away $250 last month. We're giving away $250 again this month. All you're going to do is click that link, follow me at Tyler Feller. Amazing thing happens. You're able to give me a follow. You're entered to win $250. It's a great app. I'm posting content on there pretty regularly, almost every day. Short videos, less than a minute long. Would love for you to go and follow me on the app. I pinned the link to it in the chat.
Of the timing of this, speaking of June, Kohberger not expected back in court until that month. Why unseal those warrants now?
Well, they have to be unsealed by law. Whenever you have a search warrant such as these, you have tight parameters, and it had to be unsealed, and it was unsealed. And I'm glad that they didn't try to keep it sealed and let the public see the kind of evidence that actually is coming forward on Mr. Kohberger.
All right, Jennifer Koffendorfer, always appreciate your time.
All right, Jennifer Koffendorfer. Jennifer Koffendorfer is one of my favorite people in all of the true crime world. And I'm so glad that we're able to sort of have her as a reference point for us as we are unpacking this case. Okay, so speaking of Jennifer Koffendorfer, there's a couple of her tweets that I want to put on the screen for us to go over together. How are you guys doing in the chat? Good? Hopefully you're having a great day. I'm a little tired myself, to be honest. Been traveling most of the day. I got to travel again tomorrow. You guys know how travel just knocks it out of you, knocks the energy out of you. Jennifer says, so these came to my attention. It gives me a cause compared to what Papa said. Bottom line is, others said this too. Okay, let's see what it is. Here's Papa Rogers. University of Idaho murders case discussion, Papa Roger. Of the evidence released, the murder weapon has been consistent as a large fixed blade knife. This leads me to believe they found the sheath. The evidence was released prior to autopsies. And by the way, people who are saying things in the comment section, like more than 20 times to me, saying that it's been proven that Papa Rogers is somebody else, that has not been proven. Just because some bozo living in his grandma's basement came out and said he was Papa Rogers doesn't mean that he was actually Papa Rogers, which is essentially what happened. So there's been no proof that Papa Rogers has been discovered. There's been far more proof that Papa Rogers is actually Bryan Kohberger. So all the people who are saying we already know who Papa Rogers is. No, we don't. It's never been proven. Some bozo came out and said that they were Papa Rogers, which is not true. Hey, Darcy, you said, I love the realness, Tyler. Thank you. I'm trying to give it out like it needs to come out. I'll tell you that much. So Papa Rogers posted on November 30th. On November 30th. That the sheath had been found. All right. Next thing. Other brands knife be similar blade styles. Shane says maybe the sheath was left behind. Then it says whoever this was came prepared to kill. I don't think this was random. There is a reason these murders happened to these people. Some may have been collateral damage, while one was the primary target. I wonder if the killer had a sheath for the knife. Could it have been unknowingly left behind in the struggle? Again, this is just another post pointing to what many people have been saying all along, and that it is that there was one individual who was involved in these atrocities that was a target. It was believed initially and still by many that Kaylee Gonsalves was the target. If she was not the target, the other target would have been Madison Mogen. The reason Madison Mogen may have been the target was because there may have been an indication that Bryan Kohberger was trying to communicate with her on Instagram. But there's also information that showed that Bryan Kohberger was trying to communicate with Kaylee Gonsalves via Instagram. So one of the two was a target. According to this post, it says the others were collateral damage. Collateral damage. Again, guys, this is something that was posted a long time ago. Just days after the killings. 2-3 days after the killings. No, see that little date stamp? November 16th. The killings took place on November 13th. So do you guys see what I'm saying? Just days, like literally 3 days. Like 3 days. That's how many? Like 3 days. How would have somebody had that information? Only if they were leaking information from the coroner's office, or if the person who committed the crime was the one who was posting this online. By the way, guys, we're rolling into our second hour of the show, which means it's time to start a brand new super sticker train. Again, we know that not everybody who's part of the stream is in a situation financially where you can help out, but we are totally crowd-funded. Think of this as a little mini commercial for anybody who wants to help us out. We're going after 15 people to try to hop aboard and help us out this hour. Thank you, Amy. Amy's our amazing mod, and our super sticker train conductor is what we call her. Thank you for hopping aboard and helping us out. Patty sends a super sticker. D says, love your soar. Why can't we set pause or rewind? If you wouldn't mind sharing, love the mods. Thanks for all your coverage. There are several reasons why we don't let people rewind anymore. One major reason is because I was spending 5 minutes every episode trying to communicate with people who were in a different part of the stream than we were. So if people want to rewind, they're just going to have to watch the replay. When the chat gets out of whack, it causes chaos for everybody. And that's not even all of the reasons. Some of the reasons I don't want to say publicly, but that's some of the reason why. It's like when chat's not in sync, it's really annoying. And it's like everybody's not talking about the same thing. I'm trying to communicate to people who are 30 minutes behind, so they don't hear what I have to say until 30 minutes later. It's really annoying. So we just don't let people rewind anymore. Thank you for your super chat. So here's a post that says, just a response to that. I just Googled these knives and I came here to say that type of knife can do serious damage. Whoever this was came prepared to kill. I don't think this is random. There's a reason that these murders happened to these people. November 16th. Great point about the sheath. I was thinking they must have the knife to know the manufacturer, but a sheath would provide the same information. Thinking along those lines, if they have the sheath, they may be able to tell if it looks like a new purchase versus something Grandpa gave them. Yeah, that's an interesting part of that as well. And so, guys, that was posted like 2-3 days after these crimes took place. Let's see what some people in the comments were saying. Linda says, June can't come soon enough. The release of the Pennsylvania search warrant coupled with all the Papa Rogers stuff in page 118, which we're going to get to in just a second. I'm going to pull it up. Sure looks like pieces are falling into place. I know you took some heat for sticking with the Papa Rogers link, but it's quite compelling. Jennifer says, I think it's worth examining, and it could be the case. We shall see. And they have all of his devices at this point. So if it turns out that Bryan Kohberger is actually Papa Rogers, then essentially what he's doing is admitting guilt again and 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 again. He's admitting guilt. He's Papa Rogers, because there would be no way that he would know all of that information unless he was the responsible party for what took place. Just is what it is. Hey, Lanny, thank you so much for that super sticker. Megan, thank you for that super sticker. Really appreciate your guys' support. That takes us to 4 on our super sticker train. Trying to get to 15, only 11 more. Now, Rinla003 says, if Papa Rogers is Bryan Kohberger, not that I necessarily believe that he is, then Bryan Kohberger would have planted the sheath there to have law enforcement believe it was someone with past military experience and wanted everyone to know it too, in my opinion. What Jennifer says, well, the sheath is the key to solving. She said, I don't believe it was planted, but dropped accidentally. It would be insane to leave it. And that was a theory that I had, that maybe he possibly had left it there on purpose. I asked Jennifer about that when she was on the show the other day. She was like, absolutely not. There's no way that he would have left it there on purpose. No way at all. And so when she said that, it made me drop my theory, but it's been a theory that I've been saying almost from the beginning. And the reason why I've been saying that as one of my theories, it's not certainly ever been a predominant theory, but I'm just rolling around the reason he keeps saying he's eager to be exonerated, or believes that he's going to be able to be exonerated, or excited to be exonerated. I keep rolling that around. Either he's like a narcissist that's stuck in delusion, which is my predominant theory, or he's done something that he knows is going to help him get off of the case. And so one of the things I thought he could have done was leave a sheath at this crime scene that doesn't match the murder weapon that was used. In other words, to cause reasonable doubt. Like, hey, they're saying that sheath is their piece of evidence pointing to, Bryan Kohberger as the killer, but the knife that was used doesn't even match the type of knife that would have been in that sheath. So from that perspective, I thought maybe he planted the sheath. So what do you guys think? Put a 1 in the chat if you think Bryan Kohberger is Papa Rogers. Put a 2 in the chat if you think he's not. Hey, Pamela, thank you so much for that super sticker. Thunder Basin. That's the biggest super sticker of the day. Coming in hot. Really appreciate that. Sammy Sosa, not the baseball player, but Sammy Sosa coming in hot with that super sticker. Thank you so much for your guys' support. That's number 7, trying to get to 15, almost halfway there. A lot of you guys are saying, yeah, we think Bryan Kohberger is Papa Rogers. And part of the reason that we think Bryan Kohberger is Papa Rogers, in addition to the fact that it seemed like Papa Rogers seemed to know all kinds of information that he shouldn't know, is that as soon as Bryan Kohberger was arrested, all of the information from Papa Rogers quit coming out. There was no more Papa Rogers after Bryan Kohberger got arrested. Hey, Phoebe, you said here's a point to ponder. Gonsalves had moved out. I ponder this. She was visiting Maddie for the weekend. It seems that he went directly to Maddie's room, perhaps not expecting Kaylee to be there. And that's a great point. What you're saying there is something to ponder for sure. That is a great point to ponder for sure, because it would point to Maddie being the primary target, not Kaylee. But it also could work in the other way around. He had been stalking them. He knew that Kaylee comes in and out of town. He was watching their Instagrams. He's looking at their Instagram stories, and he sees Kaylee Gonsalves is in town for the weekend. And so he knows if he's going to do something, it has to be this weekend. So it works both ways, honestly. It certainly works both ways. But I understand totally what you're saying. Hey, Joanne Byerly, thank you for that super sticker. Really appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, Paula McLeod coming in hot too. Paula, you are so amazing. Thank you so much for your support. A multi super chatter today. Really appreciate that. Miss Lacey J says, Brian's not even saying I'm innocent. Another really solid point and piece of information right there, Miss Lacey J. Yeah, Bryan Kohberger has never once said that he's innocent. His family made a statement and said, please remember that there's a presumption of innocence in the United States justice system. So there's one point there. And then on top of that, all he said is that he's eager to be exonerated. So how fascinating are these little tidbits of information? Bryan has never came out and said that he's innocent. Wow. Really fascinating. Really fascinating. Good point. Really good point. Really good point. Man, I hope you guys are enjoying your day. Tyler Kohberger is suspicious. I agree. Kohberger is creepy and suspicious. Amanda says, yeah, I believe his trip around 9 a.m. served two purposes. Now, what she's talking about there, remember that Bryan Kohberger went back to 1122 King Road on the morning of November 13th around 9 a.m. We know the killing took place between 4 a.m. and 4:20 a.m. More specifically, probably between 4:04 or 4:06 and 4:17 a.m. But he went back at 9 a.m. Amanda says, I think it served two purposes. One, to see if he could recover the sheath. That's a thought I had. It's kind of risky, right? In the middle of the day to go back in the house. He probably didn't know exactly where he dropped it. And two, to see his handiwork and the chaos he likely expected at the house. Yeah, I think so as well. Cammie's saying, who is Tyler? Hi, Cammie. My name is Tyler. My name's Tyler. Welcome to my channel. So, yeah, I thought maybe if he thought he'd have a good entry point, he might have tried to go back in and get the sheath if he could find it, if he'd be willing to risk that. And then the other thing would be he wanted to see his handiwork, see the chaos, see the lights and the sirens and how many cops are out there. Hey, Deborah, thank you for that super sticker. Really appreciate that. Thank you for your support. Amazing supporter, as always. One thing that I don't think Bryan Kohberger ever could have anticipated is the amount of public interest in this case. There's all kinds of people being stabbed and murdered, all over the country on any given day. In certain cities like Chicago, it seems to be happening pretty much every day, right? Yet very few of these stories make it to the headlines. Bryan Kohberger would have had no way of knowing that this case would have been a case that captured the attention of American citizens. I have no idea why certain cases capture the attention and get the airtime and other cases don't. From my limited time of being on YouTube, which has only been since September, the very last 2 days of September of 2021 till now. So let's just count it starting in October of 2021. How many months is that? 16 months of being on YouTube. The cases that have been the biggest cases have a pretty similar theme in that there's young, pretty white girls that have been the victims of crimes. Those are the ones that hit the news. I'm talking specifically about Gabby Petito. I'm talking about the case with Kylie Rodney. And now we're seeing it with Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle. I don't think if this was Ethan Chapin, that the news would have covered this story. I just don't. And I'm not saying that that's right. In fact, I'm actually saying it's wrong. I'm actually saying the reason why they do that is wrong. But it's the truth. If you look for similar themes, that's a theme right there. And it's sad. There's a lot of cases that need attention. Lisa says, after reading about Elliot Rogers, there's no doubt in my mind that this is where Bryan Kohberger got the idea to do what he did. Jennifer says, I agree. It's the same mindset. Again, guys, in just a couple of minutes, I'm going to show you page 118 of Elliot Rodgers' journal or manifesto. And the reason why page 118 is so important was because there was a page 118 that the police in Pennsylvania seized that had something underlined. Hey, Darcy, thank you for that super sticker. Jesse, I almost said Jessica, but it doesn't say Jessica. Jesse Blaha. Is that how you say that? Blaha? Thank you so much for your super sticker. Really appreciate your support. What an amazing blessing. So this Papa Rogers is suspected to be Bryan Kohberger? Yes. If you're trying to make a point, just make it because this looks like nothing. Others have the same insight as Papa Rogers. Maybe Papa Rogers is a member of the investigation team. I don't believe so. They wouldn't have risked their careers and frankly had no time. Perhaps an insightful sleuth. So this person's saying, well, if Bryan Kohberger's not Papa Rogers, it could be somebody who's doing some investigating. Hey, Sue Olson, thank you for that super sticker. Really appreciate that. And Jennifer's like, there's no way somebody on the investigation team would have had time to do that. And they certainly wouldn't have risked their careers either. She said maybe it was insightful sleuth. Liberty Bell says, I tend to believe it's an insightful sleuth. I can't imagine Bryan Kohberger having access to the Twitter account from jail. That Twitter account's not real. Imogene, all the peeps. So we can stop pretending BK was Papa Rogers then? Fabulous. Jennifer says, I'm not about pretending about investigating possibility. This certainly would not be in support of Bryan Kohberger being Papa Rogers. So some things to think about there. I think, good chance. So My Twisted World, the story of Elliot Rodger. Yeah, I agree, T. Renee. One of the clues is the way that Roger is spelled. Papa Roger. Rodger. Most people I know is Roger with no D in it. Certainly there are some Roger out there, but just the connection. Okay. I'm going to read the introduction to you guys, and then I'm going to show you page 118. Humanity. All of my suffering on this world has been at the hands of humanity, particularly women. It has made me realize just how brutal and twisted humanity is as a species. All I ever wanted was to fit in and live a happy life amongst humanity, but I was cast out and rejected, forced to endure an existence of loneliness and insignificance, all because the females of the human species were incapable of seeing value in me. This is how I, Elliot Rodger, came to be. This is the story of my entire life. It's a dark story of sadness, anger, and hatred. It's a story of a war against cruel injustice. In this magnificent story, I will disclose every detail about my life, every single significant experience that I pulled from my superior memory, as well as how those experiences have shaped my views of the world. This tragedy did not have to happen. I didn't want things to turn out this way, but humanity forced my hand, and this story will explain why. My life didn't start out as dark and twisted. I started out as happy and blissful child, living my life to the fullest in a world I thought was good and pure. So that's how it starts. Here's how it's going. And this is important, guys. The page 118 is important, which is what I just skipped to. I'm going to read it to you because, again, they seized something from Bryan Kohberger that had page 118 underlined. Hey, Jesse Blaha. You said, yep, it's Blaha. It's Bohemian. Thanks for your amazing coverages on these cases. I'm sending love and blessings to everyone. Thank you so much for that, Jesse Blaha. I appreciate your support. It means the world to us. And I'm glad I pronounced your name right. I always try to get people's names right, and a lot of times I don't, but I always try. Okay. How wicked and degenerate women really are. I'm just gonna read it to you guys, and then we can discuss it. Most of the people on that website have extremely stupid opinions that I found very frustrating, but I found a few to be quite insightful. The website PUA Hate is very depressing. It just shows how bleak and cruel the world is due to the evilness of women. I tried to show it to my parents to give them some sort of dose of reality as to why I'm so miserable. They never understood why I'm so miserable. They've always had the delusion that everything's going well for me, especially my father. When I sent the link of PUA hate to my parents, none of them even bothered to look at the posts on there. After a spring season spent in absolute despair, while other people lived healthy lives of sexual pleasure, summer arrived. Summer is even worse than spring, especially in Santa Barbara. Flocks of hot young girls go out in their shorts and bikinis, further tantalizing my sex-starved body every time I look at them. Knowing that they gleefully show off their desirable forms, yet they would never give me a chance to be their boyfriend, only increased my already boiling hatred towards all women. I could not leave my apartment without seeing at least a few of them. The only place I could go where I could be at peace was the lake park in Goleta. I spent a lot of time there, trying to establish a sense of peace and serenity whenever my loneliness in Isla Vista became too unbearable. As I looked at all of these beautiful trees around me and the towering mountains in the background, I wondered how a world so beautiful can be such a dark and cruel place. Indeed, a beautiful environment is the darkest hell if you have to experience it all alone, while other men get to enjoy the company of women. Now, this next paragraph is the one that I really think, if, again, we don't actually know what Bryan Kohberger underlined, but this next paragraph, if he underlined something to me, is possibly the thing that he would have underlined. Guys, this is the mind of an involuntary celibate right here. He says, I had nothing left to live for but revenge. Women must be punished for their crimes of rejecting such a magnificent gentleman as myself. All of those popular boys must be punished for enjoying heavenly lives and having sex with all the girls, while I have to suffer in lonely virginity. It was already June, and I had been living in Santa Barbara for 2 years. 2 whole years. I lived in a college town full of young, attractive students who partied and had sex all the time, and I didn't get to experience any of it. No one invited me to any parties, and in all the times I went out by myself to Isla Vista, none of the beautiful blonde girls showed any interest in having sex with me, not one girl. These are crimes that cannot go unpunished. That's what I think he may have underlined. The more I thought about all these injustices that were dealt to me, the more eager I became for revenge. That's what I think he could have underlined. It's all I had left. I didn't want to die, but I knew that I had to kill myself after I exacted my revenge to avoid getting captured and imprisoned. For a while, I had been deciding on whether I would exact my retribution in Isla Vista or at Santa Barbara City College. In both places, I had suffered greatly at the hands of everyone there. I've seen young, attractive couples walking around in both places, and those were my targets. I wanted to kill as many attractive couples as I possibly could. After a lot of thinking, I came to the conclusion that the day of retribution will take place in Isla Vista. On weekend nights, the streets of Isla Vista are always flooded with young couples and good-looking, popular kids walking to their parties. What better place is there to exact my retribution on enemies? Every time I walked around Isla Vista trying to meet girls or fit in with popular kids, I've only been treated with disdain, as if I'm an inferior mouse. On the day of retribution, the tables will indeed turn. I mused to myself, I will be a god, and they will all be animals that I can slaughter. They are animals. They behave like animals, and I will slaughter them like the animals they are. I mean, this is disgusting, guys. Well, this guy is dead, Sean Murray. So we can't lock him up. He's dead. He went on to kill a bunch of women, and then he killed himself. He says it came to a point where I had to set a date for the day of retribution. I originally considered it doing on Halloween of 2013. That is when the entire town erupts in a ruckus party, and there would literally be thousands of people crowded together who I could kill with ease. And the goal was to kill everyone in Isla Vista, to utterly destroy that wretched town. But then after seeing footage of previous Halloween events on YouTube, I saw that there are too many cops walking around. It's too risky. One gunshot from a cop will end everything. The day of retribution will have to be on a normal party weekend, so I set it for some time in November of 2013. So that's page 118 of this dude's journal, which is just sickening, right? Absolutely sickening. I'd love your thoughts on it. You guys tell me what you think. You think he had the date underlined, November? He was very ill. November 13th, 2022. November 13th. Good point. You guys are picking up something really interesting, right? Like November 13 was when Elliot Rodger did this. Gosh, that's even creepier. November 13 is my birthday, by the way, guys. There's a lot of date things that are freaky too, Bernice, like the address of the house is 1122. So like if he did this on November 13th as a way to like pay homage to Elliot Rodger, for example. And then the address is 1122, which is November of 2022, and he did it on November 13th. 1113. Yeah, it's a little bit freaky. Gosh, this is just crazy. So let me know down in the comment section if you think that there's any connection between the November 13 date of the Idaho 4 murder and the November 13, 2013 date from Elliot Rodger. It's a coincidence that just came to us as we were going through this document, but I'd love to hear your feedback on it. Put it in the comment section below. Kind of weird, guys. It's kind of a weird situation that's sort of the way it went down. Dear golly. Let me play a video for you guys of Elliot Rodger. And Elliot Rodger's dad is like a filmmaker in Hollywood. He was wealthy. I mean, like he was like a well-to-do young man. For some reason, it's not loading. Yeah, just take a second and load it.
Well,
that's Elliot Rodger.
This is my last video. It all has to come to this. Tomorrow is the day of retribution. The day in which I will have my revenge against humanity. Against all of you. I'm 22 years old, and I'm still a virgin. And it has been very torturous. It's not fair. You girls have never been attracted to me. I don't know why you girls aren't attracted to me, but I will punish you all for it. I don't know what you don't see in me. I'm the perfect guy, and yet you throw yourselves at all these obnoxious men instead of me, the supreme gentleman. I will punish all of you for it. You will finally see that I am, in truth, the superior one, the true alpha male. Yes. Well, now I will be a god compared to you. You will all be animals. You denied me a happy life. And in turn, I will deny all of you life. It's only fair. I hate all of you. I've waited a long time for this. I can't wait to give you exactly what you deserve. Utter annihilation.
On the 23rd
My goodness.
of May 2014, Elliot began his rampage. He started by stabbing his two housemates, George Chen and Cheng Yang-hong, to death. Their friend Wei-Han Wang was visiting at the time, and he too was killed, the three men receiving 142 stab wounds between each other. At 9:17 p.m., Elliot then uploaded his final video to YouTube, titling it Elliot Rogers' Retribution. 1 minute later, he then sent his 137-page manifesto to 34 people. This included both of his parents, other family members, his therapist, his former school teachers, and his childhood friends. His therapist contacted his mother within 5 minutes of the email being sent, and very quickly she reacted by calling his father Peter, and then the police. Both Peter and Li Chin raced from their homes in Los Angeles towards Isla Vista, but by then, it was too late. Elliot was already in motion. He headed to the Alpha Phi sorority with the intention of shooting everyone inside, but when his knocking on their front door went unanswered, he retreated back from the property towards the street. Instead, Elliot shot 3 Delta 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 sorority women who were nearby, killing Cooper and Veronica Weiss, and wounding Bianca de Kock. He then drove further into town to Pardal Road, before he proceeded on foot and fired several rounds into Isla Vista Deli Mart, killing a student named Christopher Michael Martinez. After killing Christopher, Elliot drove away and continued his rampage, shooting at several pedestrians in drive-by shootings while striking others with his BMW. As he backed onto himself, Elliot got into a gunfight with 3 responding officers near Little Acorn Park. He suffered a gunshot wound to the left hip before speeding away. He was closely pursued as he fled. Still adamant to cause as much carnage as possible, he crashed into a cyclist. In his rage, though, he crashed his BMW, and there was no way to flee. Elliot then fatally shot himself in the head, finally bringing an end to his rampage.
Yeah, you guys can tell that there are certainly a lot of connections between Elliot Rodger and Bryan Kohberger. A lot of connection.
This was
Golly. Yeah, that dude, you're right, Judith. That dude had a creepy laugh. Creepy. By the way, I want to let you guys know about this amazing app that I'm a part of. It's called Swag It. If you download it and follow me at Tyler Filler, you're automatically entered to win $250. Do most narcissistic killers end with killing themselves? A lot do. You see that a lot in school shootings, but some of them don't. So it's hard to say. A lot do, but a lot don't. Yeah.
was our News Nation exclusive that night, as Bryan was the only reporter there after the raid. He could even hear the voices of the Kohbergers inside their home. He knocked on the door, respectfully stood back, and could hear them through that glass window. If you take a really close peek and squint, you can see the duct tape that they'd put over it since the cops had to break in. He could hear them whispering, don't open the door. Bryan Enton is live with me now. Okay, I have so much I need to talk to you about, Bryan. I don't even know where you want to start, but let's just start with this new reporting about another job that he lost, another firing. But this one was significant because he had professional training on how to fillet with an industry standard knife.
Yeah, this was really interesting. Our friend Jennifer Koffendorfer helped to dig this up. Basically, this goes back to 2011 from when Kohberger was in high school. He worked at that fish shop for about 4 months. And his job, and he was trained to cut and fillet raw fish. So he was handy with the knife, but he didn't do so well with the customers, as you mentioned. The owner of the shop said didn't really get along with customers, wasn't really polite to customers. The owner realized very, very quickly that he really wasn't a front of the house type employee. And essentially, he really just didn't work out at all. And after about 4 months, he no longer worked there anymore.
So let's move on to another topic because I find this also fascinating. So much is being done in secret in Idaho. I understand why there's a gag order, but it seems to be overwhelming. Like everything is falling under this gag order. And now we're learning of a secret meeting that happened about this gag order.
Yeah, that secret meeting creeps me out that they were able to do that. I'm glad the notes got released or leaked to the public so we can see what was going on. Hey, Amy Heights, thank you for hopping aboard our super sticker train. Really appreciate that. We're 3 away from reaching our goal. I wonder if there's 3 more of you guys that will hop aboard our super sticker train in the next 3 minutes.
What have you found out?
Yeah, so this meeting was actually about Ann Taylor, the public defender representing Kohberger. You know, there's been all these questions about whether there is a conflict because there were these, there was this reporting, and her name was listed on the documents that had to do with Xana Kernodle's mother when she was arrested. And did she represent Xana Kernodle, and could she actually represent Bryan Kohberger too? Was that a conflict? Well, there was this Zoom meeting. It was back on January 27th between the judge. Kohberger was also involved, and Ann Taylor. And there is now a transcript that has just been released of what happened during that meeting. And it's very interesting, Ashley, and there is new information about this. Essentially, Ann Taylor told the judge that her name appears on every document in the public defender's office because she is the chief public defender. She says that Xana's mom had a different public defender, that Ann Taylor was not her lawyer, that she has never had any contact with Xana's mom, no relationship ever with Xana's mom, and never offered any legal advice to Xana's mom, and that there really is no conflict there. The judge seems to have agreed based on the transcript. Kohberger at the end of this meeting said that he still wanted Ann Taylor to be his public defender, and the meeting.
I found that to be one of the most fascinating parts of the memo that got leaked, is that if Bryan Kohberger is an involuntary celibate or an incel, like we were talking about, maybe he wouldn't have any appreciation for women at all, including Ann Taylor. And the judge very clearly left it up to Bryan Kohberger. In fact, the language actually said, well, it seems like there might be a conflict of interest. Kohberger, are you okay with Ann Taylor continuing to be your attorney? And he said it was his wish that Ann Taylor would continue to be his attorney, which I was fascinated. I was like, actually shocked by. I was actually shocked by it. Hey, Paula, thank you for hopping aboard the super sticker train. Woo-hoo. You too, Elizabeth Meyer. Appreciate your support.
Was ended, and apparently that's why things moved forward, and they decided there wasn't a conflict, Ashley.
What I find fascinating about that is if Ann Taylor were so confident of this, I was simply on the masthead of the documents as the head of the public defender office, then why did they send over a state police officer to interview Kara Kernodle in jail, because we have discovered this, and flash pictures at her to see if she recognized Ann Taylor? If they were so confident that they hadn't represented her, why did they need to actually go into the jail and do a lineup for Kara Kernodle to identify whether she had or had not, worked directly with Ann Taylor? I think there's more to this story that we still need to figure out, but it's certainly fascinating to finally get a little sunlight on some court documents. Bryan Enton, thank you. And thank you.
Bryan Enton, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Do you guys think Bryan Kohberger is going to be convicted of this crime? Put a 1 in the chat. Put a 2 in the chat if not. We appreciate a diversity of thoughts here. I think he'll be convicted. Hey, Baffle91, thank you so much for that support. Cleveland, Ohio. What's up, Cleveland, Ohio? Hello, Cleveland. One thing I'm thinking about is his sister starring in that a horror movie. You said no mistrial. I think the mom is a method. It could be. You're exactly right. It could exactly. I hope not, but it could end up being that. Golly, I certainly hope not. Thank you for your thought on that, Thunder Basin. Hey, Patty Davila, thank you for your super sticker. Really appreciate that.
Chloe knew you were using. You can't hide that forever.
Basketball champion and reality superstar.
Did you heard that Bryan Kohberger had been arrested, or did you just find out?
I had no connection whatsoever. I did not connect the dots. I had no idea. Only I had my first inkling yesterday when media started calling, and it was a journalist that told me about the connection, and I was surprised, as any person would be.
After you made the film, were you in contact with her at all? I know that's her only credit. Your film is the only credit that we see listed for her as an actor. Do you know if she continued in acting?
I think she thought about it. I don't think she went much farther than that. I know it was her first film, or at least I'm pretty sure it was her first film. My whole contact with her boils down to this. I mean, she auditioned for the movie. We basically had open auditions, so anybody could audition. She auditioned. I came in, and we liked her for the role. So offered her the role. She accepted the role. The next time I see her, other than talking to her on the phone and stuff, is during the table read. Came to the table read. She did a really fine job. And then we shot. We had 18 shooting days, mostly on weekends. And then with Amanda, I had to bring her back for a reshoot for one scene where she's running through the woods. So I had one more day with her. She was wonderful. She was good. She did a great job. I'm surprised she didn't go on and do more work, but very nice woman.
I'm assuming the answer to this is no, but I got to ask, by chance, did her brother ever come to the set to watch this? Did you ever meet him?
No, I had no idea she had.
That's the director from a movie that Bryan Kohberger's sister was in. It was a really creepy, film about murder, including stabbings. It was wild. Hey, Kathy, thank you so much for that super sticker. All right, guys, I'm going to get off of here because I'm super tired, and I'm not going to be able to stream tomorrow because I'm going to be traveling literally the entire day. 100% of the day tomorrow for me is going to be spent traveling. So be praying for me. I'm still in a little bit of recovery from, I just preached at a funeral yesterday. Kind of tired from that still. So I need rest. I need lots of rest tonight. So pray for me to get some rest. Hey, Latrell Hill, thank you so much for that super sticker. Good to see you again today. Hey, let me pray over you. Don't get off here just yet. Give me about 30 seconds to pray for you. Father, in the name of Jesus, I thank you for every single person that we just believe, Lord, that you've divinely brought people to the stream today. I pray that they'll sense just a supernatural flow of your presence and your grace for them. Lord, I pray that every single person watching right now realizes and knows how much you love them and that you care about them. God, so much so that you'd give up your only son that we could have eternal life. And so I thank you, Jesus, for your sacrifice. Lord, I pray that people's hearts and minds will be open, Jesus, to you as their Savior. And Lord, I just bless every single person on the stream in Jesus' name. Amen. Hey, Deborah says, I'm praying and believing that truth will prevail as in other high publicity trials. Exactly. Same. That's one of the things I'm praying for too. Thank you, Deborah, for that super chat. Thank you guys for being a part of the stream. Don't forget to download Swag It. Follow me, Tyler Feller, for a chance to enter to win $250. And guess what? I will see you back here very soon.